Listen, I want you to stop for a moment and ask yourself one simple question. Am I open to God's plan? The possible and for me is bigger than anything I could ever imagine. You see, so often we walk into a room or a conversation or a dream and we hold it tight like it's all on our shoulders. We carry our stories like anchors forget to look up. But right now, I'm asking you to look beyond the day-to-day noise. I'm asking you to press pause on those doubts, those fears. That little inner voice telling you you're just not enough. Because if you keep believing that small voice, you'll miss the grander vision. The truth is, we've all been given a unique purpose, woven into our hearts by a power so much greater than we can fathom. And maybe you felt that tug, that nudge in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, or that sudden spark of inspiration when you're wide awake and dreaming of the future. That's not a coincidence. That's God whispering that there is more. That's God whispering that your story is bigger than your scars, your regrets, or your limitations. Now, let's be real, life can be messy. We face rejection, heartbreak, financial stress, family troubles, and so much more. We start to think maybe our best days are behind us. Maybe the dream is too big or too ridiculous. Maybe it's safer to shrink back into the comfort of the familiar. But deep inside, there's a part of you that knows you're meant for something else, something greater, something that calls forth a better version of yourself. And that's why this moment is so critical, because you need to hear this. God's plan for you is not limited by your current situation. God doesn't look at your bank account, your summa, or your past mistakes and decide you're disqualified. No. God's vision sees beyond the surface. He sees your heart, your potential, and the impact you can have. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything or promise you an easy journey. I know some of you feel stuck, like you're spinning your wheels and not getting anywhere. You keep asking, when will this breakthrough happen? When will I finally see some results? Let me assure you that delay doesn't mean denial. Sometimes it's in the waiting that we grow the most. Sometimes it's in the uncertainty that we learn to lean into faith. And that faith can propel you into opportunities far greater than you've dared to dream. But you must be willing to see it and to seize it. You must be willing to step outside your comfort zone, trust in the process, and believe that there is a timetable beyond your own. When you understand this, when you open your heart to the magnitude of God's plan, everything shifts. You find courage you didn't know you had. You find resilience in places that once felt hollow. You start seeing life not as an endless string of problems, but as a series of moments designed to shape you into who you were always meant to be. So, if you ever felt lost, if you've ever felt small, if you've ever wondered whether your life has purpose, lean in. Because I have a message for you. It's time to step into the greatness that was planned for you before you ever took your first breath. It's time to realize that you are more than any label the world has slapped on you. It's time to say, yes, I believe there's more, and truly mean it. I want you to hold on to that feeling. Let it light a spark in your heart. Let it remind you of all the times you've gotten back up after falling. Let it remind you that they brought this far for a reason. Because God's plan for you is so much bigger than you think. Tonight, and we're going to explore exactly how to recognize that, embrace it, and step forward in confidence. So let's move together into a deeper understanding. We're about to uncover the power in believing that God's plan transcends our limitations. We're going to break down the mindset traps that hold us back, shine a light on stories of triumph in the midst of adversity, and discover real, tangible ways to walk out that plan in our daily lives. This is not just inspiration for the sake of inspiration. This is about a radical shift. A shift in the way you see yourself, your journey, and your destiny. If you're ready to open your heart, I promise you'll feel something stirring within, something that says, I am called, I am chosen, I have a purpose. And that purpose is greater than you've ever dared to believe. You still with me? Good, because I need you engaged. I need your mind alert and your soul ready. This isn't just my moment on this stage. This is your moment to claim what's been waiting for you. This is your time to start living like you believe. God's plan is real, that it's active, and that it's knocking on the door of your spirit. In just a moment, we're going to dive into the heart of this message. So clear your mind of distractions. Open yourself up. And let's begin this journey together. Here's the first thing I want to talk about. The sheer magnitude of God's vision for your life. Some of you have been living on autopilot, just getting through the day, hoping tomorrow will magically be different. But if you don't embrace the fullness of the plan, you'll miss the harvest that's been planted for you. Let's break that down. You see, when I say God's plan is bigger than you think, I'm not just talking about some vague, warm, and fuzzy concept. I mean, it's tangibly bigger, practically bigger, beyond the scope of your mental blueprint. We tend to limit ourselves to what we can see, touch, or rationalize, forgetting that the creator of the universe doesn't operate by our rules. God doesn't require your perfect track record to release a perfect promise. Maybe you've looked at your job title or your grades or your background and decided that's all you're good for. But let me ask you, who told you to stop dreaming? Who told you that miracle doors don't exist anymore? Who said you can't shift an entire generation just by living out your calling? The voice of limitation isn't God's voice. It's fear's voice, or maybe doubt's voice, or even the echo of past disappointment. Take a moment to remember a time you achieved something you once thought was impossible. Did it happen because you already had all the answers? No. It happened because you took a leap of faith. Maybe you started a small business in your garage that slowly took off. Maybe you overcame a personal addiction that had its claws in you for years. Maybe you found the courage to speak up about something that once silenced you. Whatever it was, there was a point where you had to say, I'm going to trust in a plan bigger than my own logic. That's the heart posture I want you to have right now. Imagine if you multiplied that leap of faith by 10, by 1,000. That's the realm where God operates. It's not about your comfort, it's about your calling. But here's the tragedy. Too many people settle for average because they never realize they've been chosen, for something extraordinary. They see the cracks in their armor and think that disqualifies them. They assume that because they don't come from privilege, or they've made mistakes, or they've never been the star student, they're somehow out of the running. That couldn't be further from the truth. God's plan doesn't just accommodate your imperfections, it often uses them to shape your testimony. Your flaws can become the very vehicle that transports you into your destiny. But you have to be willing to surrender your small thinking and trust the process. You have to be ready to say, yes, I'm flawed, but I'm still chosen. Yes, I've stumbled, but I'm still moving forward. If you walk away tonight still, refusing to see yourself through God's eyes, you'll keep circling the same unfulfilled dreams, the same dead-end roads, and the same sense of discontent. That's no way to live. You'll wake up each morning fighting the same old battles, losing precious time. And time is the one thing we can't get back. Let that reality sink in for a second. You've got breath in your lungs right now, which means there's still a plan unfolding for you. Don't wait until tomorrow to believe it. Believe it right now in this very moment. So how do you recognize it? How do you break out of the mindset that limits you? First, watch for those subtle nudges. Maybe it's a persistent idea that keeps tugging at you. Maybe it's a sudden opportunity that you feel compelled to explore. Maybe it's a stirring to help others in a way you never considered before. Pay attention. Second, align yourself with growth. Start reading, praying, seeking mentors who challenge you. Surround yourself with people who see more in you than you see in yourself. Third, release control. The hardest step is often surrender, but that's where faith grows. You say, God, I can't do this in my own strength, but I trust you can. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Let's never forget that faith is not just a feeling, it's an active choice. You have to take the first step, even if it's scary. You have to let go of the toxic narrative that you're not worthy. You have to start visualizing a life that exceeds your logical boundaries. When you do this consistently, day by day, your perspective changes. Problems become stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. Challenges become opportunities to witness God's faithfulness. And you start to see that every piece of your journey, the triumphs and the tragedies, fits into a much larger puzzle. So let this sink into your spirit. Let it take root. Let it shift your self-perception. Because the moment you grasp the sheer magnitude of God's plan, you'll stop being your own biggest critic and become your own greatest encourager. That's what I want for you. That's what God wants for you. This is the reality you can walk in. And let me tell you, once you taste it, you'll never want to go back to small thinking again. Now, let's talk about something else that often happens when we start believing in this bigger plan, adversity. Yes, that's right. The moment you take a bold step toward your destiny, life has a funny way of testing you. The phone call that shakes your confidence, the betrayal that stings your soul, the obstacle that seems immovable. These moments can either break you or build you, and your perspective is the deciding factor. I know that might sound cliche, but it's the truth. Adversity is not proof that your calling is void. It's often confirmation that you're on the right track. It's like a weightlifter building muscle. Resistance is required if you want to get stronger. But here's the beautiful thing. You're not in alone. If God has called you to something, He will equip you. That doesn't mean you won't feel pain or doubt. That doesn't mean you won't cry or question. It means that in those tears, in that questioning, you can still stand on a promise that transcends your circumstances. Ask yourself, is my faith anchored in my situation? Or is my faith anchored in God's intention? There's a big difference. Situations change. God's intention for you does not. I remember hearing stories of people who faced insurmountable odds. Maybe you do too. Stories of individuals who lost everything but somehow found the strength to rebuild their lives. Stories of activists who faced ridicule and persecution but never lost sight of their mission. These people weren't superhuman. They were simply surrendered to a plan bigger than their circumstances. They refused to let hardships define them. They pressed on, leaning on the belief that God's vision is unstoppable. And in that pressing, they became unstoppable themselves. If you run away at the first sign of trouble, you'll never discover the power within you. If you let fear paralyze you, you'll never experience the joy on the other side of that mountain. And if you keep telling yourself you're not worthy, you'll never allow yourself to fully receive the blessings waiting for you. Adversity is a mirror, revealing who you really are and what you really believe. So the next time you face a storm, don't panic. Pause and ask, what can I learn from this? How is this shaping me for the next step? Then move forward with that knowledge in your heart. That's how you transform trials into triumphs. That's how you walk in a faith that doesn't crumble when the road gets rough. And let me add, no matter how bad it looks, don't forget to ask for help. Sometimes God's plan for you involves connecting with the right people at the right time. Don't let pride stop you from reaching out, from admitting you need a hand. Community is part of the journey. We're not meant to conquer our challenges alone. When you open yourself to trusted friends, family, or mentors, you multiply your strength. You're not showing weakness, you're displaying wisdom, because two or more aligned in faith can shift mountains. You see, adversity in many ways is a catalyst for growth. It forces you to evaluate what truly matters. It strips away the superficial and shows you the core of who you are. And that core is where God plants seeds of greatness. But those seeds won't flourish if you close yourself off whenever life gets tough. They need the sunlight of perseverance, the water of hope, the soil of faith. That's how something beautiful emerges from your darkest nights. It's not an easy process, but it's worth it. And in the end, when you stand victorious on the other side, you'll realize it was never about avoiding battles. It was about conquering them with courage and grace. Keep that in mind as you navigate the highs and lows. Because once you decide you're all in, once you commit to living out God's big plan for your life, you'll become a warrior in the spirit. You'll walk with a sense of destiny that no storm can wash away. You'll keep going when others give up. You'll see meaning in places you once overlooked. That's the power of recognizing you are part of something so much greater than yourself. That's the power of knowing you were created for a purpose that outlasts your struggles. Now, let's bring it all home. Let's wrap our hearts around the core message and seal it with unwavering conviction. We've talked about how God's plan for you is immeasurably bigger than your own limited perspective. We talked about how recognizing that bigger plan changes the way you see yourself, your challenges, and your potential. We've dived into the importance of faith, the necessity of adversity, and the beauty of leaning into the unseen. But I want to make it crystal clear, all these insights mean nothing if you don't take action. Because a dream without action is just a wish. A calling without commitment is just talk. And you are not here to waste your breath. You are here to make waves. First, remember that your identity isn't defined by external labels or past failures. It's defined by the one who crafted you. And that means in your very DNA, there's purpose. If you let other people's opinions shape your belief system, you'll never reach the horizon. You'll stay anchored in their small vision, never daring to sail into the vast ocean God has set aside for you. So take a stand. Declare over yourself, I am chosen. I am worthy. I am capable of greatness. Let that become your daily anthem. Wake up with it ringing in your head. Go to bed with it echoing in your spirit. The more you speak it, the more you'll believe it, and the more you believe it, the more you'll manifest it. Second, hold on to the lessons adversity brings. Don't resent the storms, learn from them. Every time you push through, you gain spiritual and emotional muscle. Every time you overcome, you discover a new facet of your resilience. Use that to fuel the next phase of your journey, because there will be more storms. I'm not going to lie to you, but each storm carries hidden treasures of wisdom. Each trial reveals a deeper layer of your potential. So, instead of praying them away, ask for the strength to endure and to grow. Ask for the eyes to see the bigger picture. Because when you look back, you'll realize that what you considered setbacks were actually setups for something miraculous. Third, don't just be a consumer of hope. Be a carrier of hope. God's plan for you isn't solely about personal fulfillment. It's about changing lives, impacting communities, and inspiring future generations. When you walk confidently in your purpose, you light the path for others. You break generational curses. You shift atmospheres. You become a living testimony that says, if God can do it for me, He can do it for you too. And that ripple effect can be enormous. Imagine a world where everyone believed they were called to do something extraordinary, where no one sold themselves short. That's a world of visionaries, problem solvers, healers, and champions. That's the world we can build if we each take our place in this grand design. Now, I'm calling you to action. Don't let this moment of clarity slip through your fingers. Don't walk out of here and revert to the same old routines, the same old doubts, the same old limiting beliefs. Decide right here, right now, to do something different. Maybe it's starting that project you've postponed for years. Maybe it's reconciling with a loved one you've drifted from. Maybe it's finally stepping out in faith to serve a community that needs your gifts. Whatever it is, commit to it wholeheartedly. Write it down. Tell someone you trust. Take one tangible step today, even if it's small. Because when you couple faith with action, mountains move. Let me reiterate, this is not about perfection. You will slip, you will stumble, you will make mistakes. But grace covers you if you keep moving forward. Failure is not the end. It's a lesson, a chapter in your story, but never the final page. So give yourself permission to be human while still striving for the excellence you were created for. That balance of humility and ambition, of surrender and boldness, is where you'll find your true strength. I want you to envision your future self standing at the pinnacle of your journey. How does that person speak? How do they carry themselves? What kind of impact have they made? Picture it vividly. That vision is not a fantasy. It's a glimpse of what's possible when you align your heart with the bigger plan. Let it motivate you to keep going when life gets crazy. Let it fuel the quiet determination in your soul when the world around you questions your dreams. Because you're not living for the world's applause. You're living for a higher calling, a deeper purpose, a divine assignment that has been entrusted to you and you alone. Above all, never underestimate the power of hope. Hope transcends circumstances. Hope ignites passion. Hope makes the impossible seem reachable. If you stay anchored in hope, no storm can sink you. And that hope is directly linked to the knowledge that God's plan is vast, intricate, and tailor-made for you. When you embrace that truth, you start living differently. You take risks. You love more. You forgive more. You become a person of faith, not fear. And that change doesn't go unnoticed. It ripples out into every corner of your life. As we wrap up, let this final thought resonate. Your story is still being written. Don't close the book prematurely. Don't settle for a half-finished page when there's an entire volume awaiting you. God's plan isn't just bigger than you think. It's bigger than you can dream, bigger than your past, bigger than your limitations, bigger than your fears. If you remember nothing else from tonight, remember that. Because the moment you start believing it with all your heart is the moment everything changes. So step forward in faith. Lift your head high. Stand on the promise that you are called to do greater things than you have ever imagined. Cherish your journey, scars and all, because they are the proof that you're being molded for greatness. And as you walk in that conviction, know that you're never walking alone. The one who formed you goes before you, stands beside you, and carries you if you fall. Let that truth saturate your soul and give wings to your dreams. You've got this. More importantly, God's got you. So carry that fire within you wherever you go. Spread that belief to everyone you meet. Live like you know there's a mighty plan unfolding in your favor. And when doubt tries to creep in, and it will, turn up the volume on your faith and drown out the noise. Because in the end, the size of your vision sets the boundary for your blessings. And God's vision for you is limitless. May you walk in that limitlessness today and every day forward. Amen.